What's a secret you'll never tell your partner but are willing to tell strangers on Reddit? Story number 1. When I was 14, my grandma passed away. For years, I had been bothering my parents for my own gold necklace. Well, Gram had a little bit of money, and she gave me the $300 for a gold necklace in her will. It was my pride and joy. I had it around my neck for 17 years before I met my wife. It was off my neck maybe 3 times in those 17 years. My wife, then girlfriend, knew how much it meant to me and asked to wear it once. Well, it never came home. She had lost it somewhere or it had gotten stolen. I was distraught like crazy for 3 or 4 days while we turned our house upside down looking for it. Inevitably, I gave up, but she was very bothered by it all. So I decided to go to a pawn shop and buy the closest I could get to an exact duplicate, and then I told her that I had found the necklace in the couch cushions. To this day, she thinks that I found my necklace for my grandmother, but this is actually version 2. Story number 2. I never paid for her engagement ring. I went to a custom jeweler to have her ring made. It's a beautiful piece, and she loves it dearly, and it certainly wasn't cheap, appraised and insured for around $10,000. The jeweler was dealing with a lot of family issues at the time and was incredibly disorganized. I went to pick up the ring and brought my checkbook to pay for it, and when she handed me the ring, I took it out and asked her who to make the check out to. She said, "Oh no, don't worry about it right now, just send me a check in the mail." I thought that was strange, but sure, okay. She then hurried off to help another customer and I left, but she never told me what the final price was. For the next 6 months, I texted and called the jeweler asking, "Hey, just tell me what amount to put and I'll mail you the check." And there was always a reason she couldn't tell me. "Oh, sorry, I'm out right now. I'll find it and text you later." Her shop was a few hours away from where I live, so it wasn't feasible to stop by and handle it in person. I tried for 6 months, but after that I stopped calling and texting and just figured I got the ring for free. I wouldn't tell my spouse because I don't want her to think I took advantage of the situation or that somehow the ring isn't as meaningful because I didn't pay for it. Story number 3. I will never tell her that she killed a cat. She's very much a cat person. Once she picks me up from a friend's house and driving through town, a cat ran in front of us and we heard a thud underneath the car. She screamed and looked in the rearview mirror and we seen the cat stagger into a driveway. She was very upset and convinced she killed it. I told her that the cat clearly ran across the street and is probably fine. She was meeting some friends and I was taking the car home, so she said, would I check the driveway of that house on my way home to make sure the cat was fine? I said I would. I drove back that way and parked a few houses down and looked in the driveways, and there it was, lying motionless, sprawled out on the ground. Part of me was thinking just go home and say you seen it happily licking its anus, but curiosity got the better of me. I wanted to check to make sure it was still living. The problem was it was a gated house that was also rented, so I didn't want to just wander in on someone else's property. I rang the phone number on the sign at the side of the road. By this stage, I'm thinking, what the hell are you at? You should have been home long ago. But I was on autopilot and just went with it. The owner answers, and I tell him there's a possibility dead cat in your drive. Do you mind if I come in just to check it's all right? The guy is like, yeah, I guess. It's just I'm out of town, and there's no one here, but it's fine if you want to let yourself in the side gate. He also says thanks, so at this point, I have to do it. I'm too far in now. I let myself in and walk over, and there she is, a big dead cat. Well, I'll just tell my wife the cat wasn't there, and we can forget about the whole thing. Except the owner now knows there could be a dead cat on his property, and when he gets home and sees it lying there, he's got my number and will know I just left it there. So now I have to make a decision. Do I leave this dead cat here, or do I take it away? And if I do, what do I do with it? Across the street is a store, so I walk over and buy bin bags and rubber gloves, make my way back over, and scoop the fluffy corpse into a bin bag. Now I got a dead cat in a bag. I walk over to my car carrying this black bin bag. People are walking past me on the street, smiling and giving that upwards nod that strangers give. I give a nod back, but I'm not fully into it, because they don't know I'm walking past them with a dead cat in a bin bag. I don't feel like taking it into my car, because, it's a dead cat. So I Google vets, and there happens to be one not too far away, walking distance. I ring and ask them, do they dispose of dead pets? They said they do. So I make my way down there, in through the front door, and ask the receptionist, was I just talking to them about pet disposal? She looks at me slightly freaked and says yes. I produce the bag and say, oh well, I have a cat here, and can I just give it to her? She's like, yeah, you just leave it at our back door back outside, and charges me 50 quid for the pleasure. I walk back to the car and sat there for at least half an hour in silence and as still as a dead cat, trying to process the last hour of my life. I text my wife and say, no honey, couldn't find the cat. She must be fine and ran off somewhere safe. See you at home. Story number 4. I will never tell him that he saved my life. He's a nervous, humble guy who doesn't like undue pressure or praise, so I keep it to myself just how bad off I was before he showed up. Because even in the aftermath of my mom's death, and even in the face of some pretty nasty health problems, which I was just letting slide because I was so depressed, I was kind of hoping they'd kill me. I was very good at smiling and being charming. 3 years of taking care of a terminally ill parent taught me how to smile and bear it and feign positivity even when you're running on empty. And I never felt like I could be anything other than the fixer. The door, the person who always knows what to say, the reliable one. They who has every answer and can make bad feelings go away by just fixing the problem for you. I was not allowed to be negative, ever. But he came in and helped me with mom's estate and cheerleaded me into getting out of a dead-end career and put a stake in the heart of some severely toxic relationships I had and even helped me budget so I could finally afford health insurance, which wasn't a moment too soon because I caught shit right in the nick of time. And he just kind of did it. In his mind, it was nothing much because you were on the right track, but you had a lot on your plate and needed help. And I just nod and agree because what else do I say? I actually wasn't. I was just going to let myself die because I was exhausted and miserable, smiles aside. Thanks for intervening. Story number 5. That the thing that made me realize that I was in love with her is when I was taking a shower and got done, I walked into the room and she must not have heard me get out. She was laying on her side on the bed with her eyes closed, and she was picking her nose. I didn't want to embarrass her, so I stepped back out and from a distance asked where I set my clean clothes as I was walking back in, to make it seem like I was just coming in. She was visibly startled and quickly stopped, but continued to lay there with her eyes closed. I pretended that I saw nothing, but I couldn't help but smile. It was such an innocent and human moment. I have no idea why, but it made me realize right then, and right there, that I loved everything about her. As silly as that moment was, there was a beauty in it, and I cherish that memory. Story number 6. 15 years ago, I had a new medication that did not mix well with alcohol. I had a party with friends. We decided to go out in town. Next thing I remember, I woke up in a cell at the police station, stripped down to my undies. It turned out I took a taxi. Instead of going home, I went to my mother's street. Apparently, I was lucid enough to remember her street, but not her house, and ended up in her neighbor's backyard, doing enough noise to wake him up. In the end, I got a $400 fine and a tremendous amount of shame. Story number 7. Not me, but my friend. So his wife was really sick, but was also extremely stubborn and religious. She believed that God will heal her, so he came to me and asked for a few of my sleeping pills. They're really strong and get you into a deep sleep quickly. So he puts the pills in her drink. Like clockwork, in 30 minutes, she's out cold. He then asks me to help him get her to hospital. Next morning, she wakes up in the hospital. Good thing 2 course on top of that sickness she had. She had stage 1 cancer. She survived, and it's all good now. But he made me swear I don't tell her what we did. Story number 8. That I'm so miserable. He's a good guy, but 20 years later, and we deserve better fits. The problem is that we're not awful together, and everything is so enmeshed at this point. My political and religious views have changed so much, while his haven't. We don't have meaningful conversations anymore. We have great sex, but I don't even want to because I don't feel a connection. We're making long-term retirement plans, but I feel like it's just me smiling and nodding to whatever he wants. Not like I think there's a better fit out there for me. I'm scared of leaving the safety I've invested in. All of our retirement savings is under his name. I don't want to hurt his feelings either. Whenever I suggest marriage counseling, he blows it off as an unnecessary expense. So I don't nag, try to keep the status quo, and be thankful for stability at least.